Doesn't end to the end. What do you think, Felix? All right.
Hold on a second. Now you guys, we coordinated this. If you see red shoes, plaid, that's how you become closing keynote, right there.
This is the keynote. This is the keynote. This is the keynote outfit right here. Shirt. Is this also a standing shirt for you? Because if you guys look closely,
ooh.
I can't sit down in a shirt very well.
That wasn't included in my memo. I missed that one.
It's a couple more years of art buffet.
All right, that's the key. So who here is ready for more change? Probably nobody. The theme of the last 2 days, as I stalked the hashtag yesterday and then got to participate in almost all the sessions today, the idea of change is definitely a theme throughout the presentation. And so I'm going to walk through kind of a presentation that not only hopefully inspires you and motivates you, but also kind of connects the dots from where we are today, or maybe where you were before we started the presentation, to where we're going in the future. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about here might sound like it's something that you've already heard, but ultimately my goal is to kind of inspire a new way of looking things. And this is a GIF, or a GIF, I won't make that argument to start off this presentation, but this is the real-time internet, every second. The idea of how many tweets, how many videos are uploaded. On top of that, the stat that's not up there that's pretty interesting because I'm a podcaster, is that 7,000 podcasts are uploaded to iTunes every single day. And so the idea of content, the idea of conversation, the idea of a crap load of content is everywhere. And for me, whoever was the genius that coined the phrase, content is king, we should all find that person and take him out back. Because ultimately, content is not king, as proof here. Content adds to the noise. But great content that understands and is built for your audience is ultimately what is king. And connecting that with context and building that beyond just the standalone content is where we move forward. Now, times are always changing. I introduce myself, I'm a change evangelist, which is a pretty fancy word for saying I've failed a lot in my career and I learned how to change. I like to say I've mastered the art of pivoting. And change is happening at a rate of speed we've never seen before. How many people here remember the VHS camcorder that either your parents or you had over your shoulder? I remember waiting for I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My dad would make my brothers and I stay at the top of the stairs while he ran to the bottom for this giant VHS recorder so he could record us coming down the stairs. Now that technology was around as the kingpin of that medium of content for 21 years. The Blu-ray DVD, in contrast, did not survive in the market for 4 years. The rate of speed we see today is unlike anything we've ever seen before. Not only is it social and mobility, video, which we've heard as a theme from start to finish, is drastically changing things. And then connectivity, the idea that we want things where we want it, how we want it, and whenever we want it, is the new generation. And I don't think anyone here would like to go back to the old days of watching TV with a commercial and not having a TiVo. But ultimately, this idea is transforming not only what we think about change, but how we have to think about content and marketing. Now, this is a recent study that just came out in January, and some of the stats on this is really compelling in my opinion. And one of the ones that probably stands out the most is 3.1 billion people are on social media. Of that 3.1 active social media users, 2.9 of them are active via their mobile device. We are no longer living in a mobile-first world, we are living in a mobile-now world. If you're creating a website, if you're creating your content from the web backwards to mobile, you're doing it wrong. When you think about it, the fact that mobile is how we create, how we consume, how we connect, other than using it for the actual phone part, which that app is on page 4 of my phone, the phone can do everything and anything we want, and it's drastically changing the landscape. Now on top of that, one of the things that I often hear is people say they throw out stats about Facebook users and the kids are never on Facebook, and most recently a stat came out just this week that for the first time in history, Facebook total membership users went down for a quarter. It went down 2.7 million, I believe. But also you have to look at the facts and look at where your audience is. And when I work with brands, I work with different companies, oftentimes the idea of knowing who your audience is probably the hardest part. And these stats came out, and it's probably compelling to most people, because how many people here have heard, maybe on stage, and if you were the speaker that said it, you don't have to raise your hand, but how many people have said that millennials or Gen Z aren't on Facebook, right? Right? We've heard that as a theme. Well, this is proving that wrong. The question becomes, what are they doing on Facebook? What kind of devices are they using to create or consume the content? And then ultimately, are they spending time engaging with brands or their friends? Let's face it, the reason they went to Snapchat, besides the naked picture sharing, was because A, their parents were not there, and B, they were looking for a way to communicate in a format that is natural to them. How many people here, when you started looking at Snapchat, found it really difficult to use? I'm guessing the majority of people, I felt like, I was like, what in the world? Swipe left, swipe right, where's my buttons? There's no back button. But for this generation, especially those that I would say are born on Facebook, which I'll come back to that in a minute, they think of that as a natural behavior. And it's something we have to think about as we're moving forward. Now, just recently, this is about 4 weeks ago now, Mark Zuckerberg came out with a massive shift. And in my opinion, this drastically changes every social media network moving forward. And Mark, in his wisdom and what he's focusing on, one of the things that he's always talked about was the idea that Facebook is not there to be a social network, but ultimately connect the world. He has a lot of good causes and a lot of things that are going on. But the piece that was a driving force for this drastic shift in Facebook, and I'll get to the drastic shift, was Facebook Live. Live video has completely disrupted the entire space of marketing. And the reason for it is simply, it's close to where we can get to real-life interactions on social media. The most popular phrase, or the most important phrase you can say on live video is, I don't know. When someone asks you a question, by saying, I don't know, it adds validity to what you do know. Funny enough, anywhere else on social media or on our marketing, do we admit till we don't know? I will tell you, 2 brands that I'm working with that are Fortune 50 companies will be rolling out in the next 2 months an I don't know page on their website. The idea is that when we're moving forward, live video has allowed us to feel that we know somebody. We can look them in their digital eyeballs. We can see when they fail, because that's like us. And one of the things that drastically shifted with Facebook, more so than anywhere else around live video, is people started engaging and interacting with brands and people that they stopped engaging or unfollowed months or years ago. And when Facebook looked at this and Facebook tried to figure out what this means, they went from an idea that said, wait a second, we should be rewarding engagement. Engagement's not the goal. And for those that are running a business, I'm sure most of you are saying, like, hey, you got a lot of engagement on the post, but what the hell does that do for my business? Or what did we learn from that engagement? Ultimately, what Mark and what the Facebook change really means, and the key phrase of that entire piece, is they are no longer rewarding engagement, they are rewarding meaningful interactions. We as marketers, especially in the social media space, we have to start thinking about how do we inspire meaningful interactions, not simple engagement. Let's face it, engagement for us lately has been scrolling Instagram, scroll, scroll, double tap, scroll, scroll, double tap, scroll, oh, that's an ad, scroll. That's what engagement has meant. And for brands, is how do we inspire something beyond that? Ultimately, using the first word that was ruined by the third word, putting the social back in social media. When we added marketing to the word, we forgot the social part of it. And ultimately, what Facebook is doing, what they're rewarding is, they're going to be rewarding meaningful interactions. You might be thinking, what the hell is a meaningful interaction? Or like, God, I needed another vanity metric. And meaningful interaction is a comment or conversation that inspires more comments and more conversations. They're getting rid of the idea, if you put clickbait, they will not show it to your audience. You have to inspire conversation. This is exciting. This is moving social media to a space where it's more about that conversation. Now, the difference here and how I think we have to look at this, especially when we're working in marketing, and I can tell you my clients called me up the very minute this came out, was there's 2 things we have to look at, especially on Facebook. There's one thing we do, which is marketing and advertising, which is using Facebook ads, which are still the best money for your bang. But ultimately, that's one side of the piece. Our second strategy, inspiring meaningful interactions, must inspire conversations, must understand our client and customer, and ultimately, we must be able to relay that information, that what relates to people, back up the chain. When I talk to social media managers, they're like, what am I doing now? When's the best time to post? What should I be posting about? And we're going to shift our idea on Facebook from posting 5 days a week to creating a campaign around one great piece of content or a great post and inspiring meaningful interactions. Now, some of the things that I've been working on is using email marketing to drive those meaningful interactions on a Facebook post. Ultimately giving us more data, more information about our clients and customers, which then allows us to put that into our ad manager and now better understand the people that we're targeting. Facebook is shifting the landscape, and it's going to impact every social media network. It's already impacted LinkedIn. Twitter is my favorite network. Twitter has its own problem of getting their own way. They can't even be infected by anybody else because they're too busy getting in their own way at the moment. But ultimately, this is a massive shift, and I use that hashtag all the time. In Zuck, we trust. If Zuck sees it's going this direction and is investing it, it means something. When he moved the live video button from the scroll down on the side to the bottom of your iOS app, it's because he believes that the closest we can get to an offline experience in the online world is live video. Now I'm going to tell you, change is hard. Change is scary. How many people here believe change is hard and change is scary? I mean, not only is change hard and scary, but what's interesting about this is that I had a slide deck presented. If you guys go to the website and look at my slide deck, you're going to actually see a completely different set of slides. Because I started here this morning, and I started taking notes about what was going on, and I really wanted to see what mattered, what people were talking about on stage. And ultimately, I wanted to drink my own champagne, and I wanted to kind of embrace change and what change meant for me. And so change not only is hard, but we have to inspire it, we have to motivate it, and we have to teach it. Now, what we do as marketers, more often than not, is we have to leverage the data available to us, while at the same time teaching change. When we first launched Facebook Live onto Facebook, I launched IBM's very first Facebook Live, Dell's very first Facebook Live. I went live at the Super Bowl with the Super Bowl. One of the things that blew people's minds when I would work with the brand managers, they would come back to me and say one thing: going live is just as easy as clicking a button. Now, the good news is, and the reason live video is so powerful, is that live video is as simple as pressing a button. Now, the reason most live video sucks, in my opinion, is because it's as easy as pressing the button. We have to think beyond and start teaching change. For so many people, when I would go live on Facebook the very first time, the most popular question I would get is this live? If you've gone live on Instagram, I'm sure you get that all the time. Instagram stories is amazing. People are so confused. I'm like, I've never came to Instagram to get live content. Why is this live? We must inspire change. We must teach change. These are my 3 daughters. I have 3 daughters, 8, 6, and 4. And if I force change upon them, if I tell them they must download a new app or they must do something different, my 8-year-old looks at me and says, no. Just like our bosses do when we tell them that we need more budget or we need to shift our focus. Ultimately, we must teach and inspire change. If you cannot get a budget for a new idea that you are wanting to implement right now, you are not approaching the conversation correctly. In today's world, the most powerful thing we have is this device in our pocket. This device allows us to do anything we want. My brother works with a brewery, and he couldn't get the brewery to embrace Facebook Live. So I simply was there over the weekend in Dallas, and I said, hey, let's go and do a homebrew session from your garage. Fire up Facebook Live and let people have a peek into what we're doing. The amount of conversations, questions, inquiries that existed in that Facebook Live were amazing. He didn't have to go in and tell his boss the next time what Facebook Live is and why you need to be there. He simply showed the video that he did himself. So when we're talking about change and we're thinking about things, the change is happening. Now, I'm a pager-wearing millennial. And no, I don't have a pager on now. But I was born in 1981, I'm 36 years old, and so I am on the cusp of the millennial generation, and I know what a pager was. When I graduated university, I got out of college, gave up my EDU address, Facebook came out requiring you to have an EDU address, and I said, crap, I don't get to be on Facebook. I didn't have an iPhone in college, I had a flip phone, a Razr phone, a Nokia button, they went beep, beep. But millennials and Gen Z, and what I would say is digital natives, this is a powerful stat. 3 out of 4 would choose to spend their money on an experience rather than buying something desirable. So my question to you Are you advertising and marketing towards the 1/4 or the 3/4? Are you creating experiences like I saw with the Westin Grand Cayman hotel earlier, where they're focused on the experience from the first person's point of view? The reason those ads work is because it makes sense to us because we want an experience. If he was just putting a hotel in that ad, that's towards the 1/4 that says I want to go towards something that's desirable. Something we must embrace, and my dad, who's a candy salesman, always reminds me of this, is that what we do online, especially social media, is not built to replace the handshake or what we do offline. Ultimately, what we should be able to do, creating better experiences, connecting conversations, and extending the breadth of what we have going on, is it should turn us to give us more handshakes. And my tagline is, I like to turn handshakes into hugs and selfies. Because for me, one of the most powerful things that happens when I get off stage, when I go around the world, I speak about 65 times a year in different countries around the world, my favorite thing to hear is, wow, you're the same person online as you are offline. With the brands I'm working with, they say this is what we do online, and this is why we're awesome offline. My dad made me golf when I was growing up. I played hockey, but he made me golf because he said, son, business is done on the golf course. Why is business done on the golf course? It's because we don't hawk what we do. We don't focus on selling someone. We let them get to know who we are. We share stories that they can relate to. And then ultimately, they end up coming to us and saying, how can I work for you? Or what is it again you buy? So we must change our mindset. We must shift to a new landscape. Now the question becomes, what does this new landscape look like? What is the world we're living in today? And these are 4 key areas that are going to kind of wrap us around what today's consumer looks like. Disruption and change are the new normal. I was so frustrated. I bought an Amazon Echo, and then I decided to buy a Google Home. And my company's name is iSocialFans with a Z, but the lowercase I is because I'm an Apple fanboy. And when Apple comes out with their speaker, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I just bought Amazon's, I just bought Google's, but that change happens, it's disruptive. We're looking at disruption now at a completely different pace. When my daughter sees an app updated on our iPad, she's not worried about where things are, she's used to that change happening. Disruption and change are the new normal. Community is the future of business. When you start thinking about community, most people immediately picture something fluffy, or something that's like, hey, it's the people that are in my neighborhood, or it's the baseball team that my kids belong to. But community is the future of business. When we empower our employees, we connect with our customers and prospects, we collaborate with our partners and those that are in our industry. That is community. People buy from those they like. People also buy from those they can relate to. The question becomes, are we connected with our community? Do we understand what people are doing and what they're talking about as far as around the products we're using? When companies come to me to build an influencer marketing strategy, one of my first questions I ask them is pretty simple. What do you do with your employees to empower them as your marketers? And they're like, oh, we don't use our employees as the face of our brand. Like, we want to bring in, like, you know, a celebrity. We want to bring in these, like, YouTube stars. And the question I ask is, ultimately what you're trying to do with influencer marketing is build out trust. What you're trying to do with influencer marketing is allow the consumer to connect with someone that they already can see that looks like them and sees like them. But why are we not using the people that are already on our payroll? If your employees are not your biggest advocate for your brand, you do not have a marketing problem, you have a brand problem. And this is where it starts when we're looking at community. And the third one here is the future of innovation is collaboration. If you were starting out on a social media channel or you're trying to grow your following, the #1 way to do so is collaborating with others. And I'll give you a perfect example. How many people here have heard of Thinkific? Online training sites with Thinkific. So not a lot of people, so this is good for them. So Thinkific messaged me this week and said, hey Brian, I know you have an online course on our website and you're going to that really cool event, Digital Summit in Phoenix. How about you take over our Instagram account? I said, hell yeah, why not? Now the benefit for me is that I get to reach a new audience. Now I'm not getting paid. I don't have to, hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored. But what they are doing is they're collaborating, because I told my audience that if you want to get behind the scenes of what I'm doing at this event, you must follow Thinkific. And what Thinkific is doing is promoting and saying, I'm trusting this person, Brian, to take over my account. Well, what happens then is we use my audience and their audience. There is some overlap, but we connect dots. We collaborate and grow together. The future of innovation is sharing. We are going to cure cancer because Apple's going to share their data with Google. We are living in an API economy where we are open sourcing everything, and the future of innovation is collaboration. And then the fourth one, which is probably the most important for everyone in this audience, is without question, relatability is the future of marketing. I said it before, people buy from people they like. People also buy from people they can relate to. How many people here believes Matthew McConaughey drives a Lincoln? So when Matthew McConaughey tells me to buy a Lincoln, I'm like, you think he understands, like, I have 3 daughters, there's car seat impressions, Cheerios under the back seats, you know, I got 19 drinks and I got Capri Sun all over the place? No. But when I go on YouTube and my friend of mine named Mia Voss has reviewed 250 different vehicles from her point of view as a mother, and she is someone I can relate to, she can feel my pain, and she tells me what car to buy, you're damn right I'm gonna listen. It's because she's relatable. She understands my pain points. Influencer marketing is not a trick. The concept is we trust this person's aligned with the brand, and because we don't trust the brand but we trust this person, we're gonna take a stab. We're gonna do what they say. And that's impacting every bit of your business. I don't care what you do for work. I get to work for brands all over the spectrum. A lot of times I get to work with enterprise technology brands to mom and pop brands that are selling things out of a brick and mortar. If you want somebody to not buy something on Amazon and come into your store, relatability is the secret. Why do we go to the hole-in-the-wall restaurants when we go to different places? Because, ooh, I want to meet the owner, and they get me, and it's my type of area. They got darts, and it's not overly populated, it's not overly produced. It's the same thing in marketing today. And the sad part about this, relatability is impossible via your logo or your brand. Relatability only happens when you empower the people that make your brand great. And this is a shift for every marketer that's in this room, documenting, creating a personal brand, understanding your value to that brand, even taking over your brand accounts, should be something that is in your planning. And if you're a brand manager or a CMO, and you're like, well, I'm not sure about that, I ask you a simple question. Do you trust your employees? Very seldom do I hear the word no to that question. Therefore, if you trust your employees and you believe your employees are your greatest advocates and your greatest ambassadors of your product, why not let them take over your Facebook Live and share their point of view? Why not allow them to do things from the different places that they go? Ultimately, relatability shrinks the distance and allows us to understand that the person selling us something or talking about a product gets who we are. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Brian, this is, I might believe, but I'm curious, like, how do I make this happen? Like, what do I do? And one of the first places I always remind people is that your phone has a front camera, the selfie camera, and it also has a camera on the back. If video scares you, or live video scares you, or even documenting things scares you, start by using the camera on the back. Interview other people. Bring people on a journey with you from your point of view. Most people are scared of video because they think it's only about them. And breaking news, majority of people watching video don't want to hear from you anyhow. They want to hear from your customers how great you are. The reason Yelp is outside right now, and the reason Yelp is such an impact on businesses, especially restaurants, is because every restaurant, I've been to 72 countries, by the end of this year I'll be at 75 countries. Every place I go, there's a sign that says, world's famous pizza. So either there's one company just sells the world's famous pizza to everyone, or we as marketers kind of overly saturated the market with world's famous pizza or world's best pizza. And when we go to a market, what do? We post on Facebook asking for inquiries, or we go to Yelp and look at, hey, these people that look like us, that smell like us, that travel like us, that have similarities to us, we trust their opinion more than we trust the billboard that says, world's best pizza. That is relatability. And how do we make this connect in this access world. When I work with brands, I get to work with some amazing brands, and NASA is one of the ones that has done amazing things. I never knew what NASA was about. I worked in the US government for a long time. I worked in cybersecurity, but I still didn't understand NASA. But prior to the last launch, and prior to a lot of the things they were doing, they bring you behind the scenes into the command and control center. You got to see how stressful things were. I got to work with SAP, and SAP was doing a massive product launch. And just for those that know, SAP is not sexy. The Grand Cayman Islands, creating video for that, that's sexy. Enterprise technology, not so much. But if I bring you behind the scenes and you see all the things that we're doing, you watch us stressed out for the product launch, you get to hear from the product team on why they created something, how they created something, why all of this means so much to their customers, their partners. All of a sudden, when that product went live, we had advocates and evangelists that had never bought a product from SAP before, but they now felt a part of something because we gave them access to something they couldn't get anywhere else. Access to people, access to places, access to products, access to experiences is the game changer, and the easiest way to do so is with your phone. You can go live from your phone, and you might be thinking, Brian, that's cool, but you have to have a brand that's risky and a brand that's willing to do that. Now, I'll tell you, the brand that I worked with, it's a small brand, it's called the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl allowed me to live stream 28 hours of content from Super Bowl City in San Francisco 2 years ago. The device that we used to live stream the Super Bowl, well, I have 4 phones, so one of my 4 phones. We used a mobile phone to live stream at the Super Bowl 28 hours. If your business or your boss is like, well, using the phone isn't for us, the Super Bowl proved you wrong. The idea that we can give people access based on where we're at. People do not want you to say, hey, look at us, we are so great, we have the greatest product and the greatest pizza. What they do want is you to say, why is that pizza so great? Is it because it's your mom's recipe or your grandmother's recipe or your grandfather's recipe? How does that impact me? How does it compare to the pizza that I eat on a regular basis? Weirdly enough, in marketing, we've heard Simon Sinek's why, yet we spend most of our time still on the what. Now, one of the things that I believe is changing this game, along with live video, is what I call participatory content. The very first live stream I did was on an app called Meerkat. And Meerkat came out at South by Southwest, and I happened to be at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Working with Dell, I created about 20 hours of live video content, or 20 hours of video content. And I decided to go live on Meerkat. I clicked the button and pushed it out to Twitter. And one gentleman, his name's Gary from Indiana, was my one and only watcher. And Gary jumped in there and said, whoa, this is live. Of course, I was like, yes. And I flipped the camera around, and he saw that there was a Samsung booth across the way, and he said, hey, is that the new Samsung phone over there? Any chance you could go over there and show me? I created 20 videos of content over 3 days. Not once did I show the Samsung booth. We create content for our audience because we try to create the content for our audience once. The light bulb for me went off. Prior to that, I had 3 videos on my YouTube channel. 2 of the 3 were when I was in Iraq. Not great content. From that moment, I realized digital marketing for the last 9 or 10 years to distance ourselves from our customers. Well, guess what our customers are telling me? We don't trust you as a brand. We don't believe that you have the world's greatest pizza, but we do relate with people. We do watch YouTube. 72% of people under the age of 35 trust the recommendation of a YouTube creator over their own friend. Because they can relate, they can connect. The reason vlogging and podcasting, all of these new mediums are taking off is because we feel it. Podcasting is my #1 lead generation tool for me and my business. The reason is that people tell me, Brian, I feel as though you're talking in my ear. Now, don't listen to my podcast like 1.5x, because I talk really fast, and I sound like Minnie Mouse if you listen to a podcast, one of my shows at that speed. But ultimately, it's about breaking down this barrier. How do I shrink the distance between my brand online and my brand offline? The amount of times I hear from people saying, I'm not sure about digital marketing, because when people come in my business, that's how I close sales. But we need to start doing what we do in the business online and shrinking that distance. Now, to do that, I have 2 very simple rules. If you do not embrace these rules, you will not benefit from this presentation. Every single client that works with me, we put this slide up. Perfection is a fairy tale. Before we get there, hold on. How many people here, just shout out, what brand do you know that's perfect? All right, brands are harder. Okay, let's try something different. Everyone out here, shout out, what person do you know is perfect? Beyonce. I'll make sure Michael Barber hears that. He will for sure agree. Sometimes people throw out Mother Teresa, but if you ask her, she wouldn't believe it's perfect. The interesting thing is we don't believe any brand is perfect, we don't believe any person is perfect, yet we focus on perfect content, perfect website copy, perfect delivery, not misspelling words or using A instead of an on our slides. Perfection is a fairy tale. If you cannot get over the need to be perfect, you will never embrace this new medium, because relatability is because we're not perfect. It is amazing. Anyone here has watched John Legere, the CEO of T-Mobile, online? He is amazing. I recommend. He does a Sunday cooking show from his house, and then on Fridays he runs through Central Park and gives away cell phones if you can track him down. This is the CEO of T-Mobile. I actually know what he goes through when he picks out his magenta socks on Fridays, because he documents it on Snapchat and Instagram. He relates to me. I like cooking, he likes cooking. Now granted, he flies a private jet between his different houses. I drive a car or Uber. But ultimately, the question I asked myself when I was switching mobile carriers in that scenario was, I've been with AT&T for 9 years. I couldn't tell you if the CEO is male or female. But I know the T-Mobile CEO knows who I am, knows what I'm about. I can relate, I can know he feels my pain, he's passionate. I switched my phones to T-Mobile. It's that relatability, removing the need to be perfect. The second piece is control is an illusion. You cannot control your message, you cannot control your brand. And for most people that are worried about control, if you are not pushing a button, if you are not putting content online, you are letting someone else tell your story. You're letting someone else do your bidding in your conversation. When someone asks me to help them with a personal brand, the very first advice I give them is Google your name. You'd be amazed when you Google your name what comes up on the first page. Now, is that what you want to be known for? Or do you want to create content to put out your story, your message, who you are, what you're about? So I simply say, when we're looking at this, we as a brand, we as a marketer, we as a creator, we must find our way to embrace this mantra. Be yourself. Your vulnerabilities, the things that make you unique are what people relate with. I was diagnosed ADHD at 31 years old. I prescribed with Adderall and it changed my life. For me, that diagnosis helped me understand who I am. The amount of people that connect with me and say, Brian, I went through something similar, or Brian, hey, thank you for sharing that. I never thought about sharing my vulnerabilities. It allows me to connect and relate. If you as a brand say, hey guys, sorry, I pushed out that app update, and really what happened was we copy-pasted wrong, and a new one's coming out, all of a sudden they're like, hey, I copy-pasted wrong too. But the way that we do it is like, no, it's the second one, more bug fixes, right? That's what we put on the new app update. And we allow that frustration. So being yourself is that key, not only for standing out, but for embracing this new. Now, transparency is a funny one. I embrace transparency, and when I often talk about brands with transparency, I always tell them, if you're going to share something you've never shared online before, simply line up all of the risks and all of the reward, and from there, decide if it's worth putting it out. Transparency does not guarantee trust, but what it does is it allows people to have an authentic window into who you are and ultimately build that trust. My mantra is simple when it comes to this. Now, my last name kind of worked out pretty nicely. My last name is Fanzo, and my mantra is think like a fan. And what think like a fan means, in this world where we need more empathy, we need to be able to understand our customers. If you truly understand your customers, and you feel as though you can strap on the shoe of your customer and relate to them and walk through their day-to-day life, create content, create marketing, create conversation from that point of view. Because right now, we live in a world where we talk about our what. And breaking news, what we do is really boring. I don't care how sexy you are. But today's consumers care about why you do what you do, how you do what you do, and ultimately, what buying that product is going to do for my life. If you're looking at live video, if you're looking at Snapchat, if you're looking at creating a podcast, you're wanting to embrace a new technology, and the first question you ask me is, what should I talk about? You haven't thought about it correctly. Why do I want to create this piece of content? Why should I be doing this? And then why should my audience care? Why will my fans want to talk about this content? People, the reason viral videos go viral is not because of the what. It's because it relates and inspires them to take action. There's no secret formula to creating a viral video, but there is a secret formula to creating things from the fan's perspective. The last couple pieces here I have for you is show you care. If you want to stand out, if you want to be on a customer's radar, if you're working to bring up someone else, start celebrating that customer. Start working with that customer. Because it is amazing when you care about others, when you care about other brands, or even other competitors. When you need something, more likely than not, they're going to come running. Show you care before someone else realizes they care. And last but not least, how many people have seen this movie, The Field of Dreams? Kevin Costner. The tagline is pretty simple. If we build it, they will come. The breaking news is, if you build it in 2018, nobody is coming. Nobody. The reason the website launch disappeared, we just kind of do updates of our websites, because when we were launching them for a while, nobody cared. It was like, we're going to change it again in like 5 days. If you build it, nobody is coming. The Field of Dreams marketing is over. If you want to create content, conversation, and be where your audience is, you must go to them and provide value where they are. My number one place for my podcast consumption is on an Echo, because my community and my audience is really busy, and I figured out that if I put it in a place that is already in their workflow using an Amazon Echo, they're going to listen to my podcast a heck of a lot more, because the majority of them work from home and they don't commute. When I record my live video, my podcast, I do it via live video. I do every Monday at 4 p.m. I create my podcast via live video. I take that video, take a 1-minute clip and put it on Instagram. A 10-minute clip, natively upload it to LinkedIn. I take a 2-minute, 20-second clip, put it on Twitter. I upload it into Libsyn, and it gets pushed out to 83 different podcasting syndication apps. I take one piece of content that I create over 35 minutes, and in 1 hour, I have it in 8 different formats on 8 different pieces of content. This does not have to be overwhelming. It's pretty easy to do so. And I know that sounds like it's not very easy, but I can almost promise you it is. Last but not least, create meaningful interactions. But focus where your community is today. You're going to leave this room, you're going to have tons of notes. You're going to run back to your office and say, I want to do all these things. And they're going to say, well, guess what? You didn't reply to emails for 2 days. Go do that. And then it's going to be Monday or Tuesday. And then you're going to forget how inspired you were when you were here. And you're like, damn, I need to go to another event. And thankfully, Digital Summit Series has lots of them throughout the year, so you can go to the next one. But ultimately, focus on understanding, I want to market where my clients are today, but I want to listen for where they're going tomorrow. Because you must be open to change. You must be able to understand the future. And I'll leave you with this. In this world where perfection is a fairy tale, control is an illusion, everyone can be a creator, everyone can be a documenter. Ultimately, the great marketing and relatability is creating your own reality show about the why and the how of what you do. But you will never get started if you're worried about being perfect or worried about control. Because when you let those go, you no longer worry about them, you press the damn button. I inspire you and I ask all of you, my call to action is simple. Look at your notes. Look at all the things you learned over the last 2 days. Pick one of them and do it. And don't add variables and don't add caveats. I simply want you to press the damn button. My name's Brian Fanzo. Thank you, guys.
Keep it going for Brian, everybody. That's it. Thank you so much for coming. So we made it to the end. What do you think, Phoenix? All right.